双年展一直是策办单位向国际提出深度思考与想法的一个重要的国际盛会。台北双年展也一样，国际观众对于台北双年展的一个期待，在于我们如何经由展览跟当代国际社会产生对话，里面也包含了我们如何展现在地的纹理和特质。这一次的双年展主题是地平线上的低吟，我们邀请2位策展人探讨是以私募作为一个推动的一个内在驱力。那这2位策展人他们具有多重的专业背景，包含艺术史、剧场、经济、政治等，所以他们非常擅长用不同的观点和视角来发展展览跟城市的紧密关系，尤其是地方的这个历史以及国际对话的这个潜力。我们在这个展场上可以看到很多新的委托创作以及借展的作品。策展人不但是将这个全球的重要作品带到双年展，也引用了北美馆非常重要的典藏作品。在这个历史作品的重要的意义上，作为私募的这个活性媒介，他们巧妙地运用策展的方法，让这些媒介使台湾重要的艺术家以及当下很重要的这个当代艺术的创作者产生了跨世代的一个对话。
This year's Taipei Biennial centers around the theme of yearning, and yearning is a feeling that actually connects us all across the world, no matter where we come from, what backgrounds we are having. So it is something about perhaps remembering from the past. Maybe it is a dream that you try to remember, you can't maybe quite get to. Maybe it is a wish for the future, a person that you miss, something that you think is missing and something that you're longing for to feel more complete. And oftentimes we might not even really understand what it exactly is that we're yearning for, but we're longing for something, for a different state of being, for something else. And that is often a motivation to maybe do something, to travel or to dream or to indulge in a feeling of nostalgia or missing. But it is certainly something that is all driving each and every one of us, no matter where we are and what age we have. So, embarking on this Biennale, it was really important for us to ground the Biennial in the context of TFAM, in the context of the collection, but also a literary history, music history, and just kind of figuring out a bigger kind of picture. Where does this Biennial sit, and how can we create an edition that can only happen here in Taipei? So it is not an exhibition that we could take and show it in Rio de Janeiro, in New York, or in Berlin. It is really made for the city of Taipei. So, and what we wanted to create really is a place where you can connect through certain stories.
The tactility of your experience with each other.
Like all the projects that Till and I work on, for us it's very, very important to find a way to connect with the immediate context in which an exhibition exists, in which a biennial exists, any project that we do. So for us, everything starts with a deep process of listening, of encountering individuals who have been invested in asking questions related to the ideas that we feel are important to explore at a specific moment in a specific place. So we did a lot of research looking at historical materials, we read a lot of books. It sounds all very, very obvious, but we wanted to kind of listen to the voices that have for a long time been invested in thinking about issues that relate to things that are very much coming out from Taiwan, from Taipei, from this place, from its history, from its aspirations towards the future. And this led us to a lot of places and a lot of people. We watched several films, we read a lot of novels, we talked to art historians, to cultural historians, to political analysts. And ultimately, we landed on 3 things that became, for us, very, very reflective of that yearning that we wanted to capture in this biennial.
And these three objects, the bicycle, the puppet, and the diary, are elements that you find sometimes in the exhibition, throughout the exhibition, perhaps in photographs, but in other themes. And they all come from three really important cultural figures in the history of Taiwan. So it is a process of learning, reading, talking to people, and then seeing what could be an interesting connecting point and where do you have these objects of yearning. So a diary is, of course, something where you keep your past, you want to keep it alive, where you keep a memory, but you also show a dream maybe that is not fulfilled in it, so it stays behind you. It may never happen what you put in there. And a puppet is a great symbol of an object where you can rethink who you are perhaps. It is like an alter ego or a story that you can tell without really directly making about yourself. It is something that unites us all. And then the story of a bicycle that was stolen or an object is a great metaphor also for journeys, for traveling, or for going from one place to another, and from reconnecting with an object that is perhaps mundane, but acquires a very special meaning because it belonged to a very special someone. So it is also an object of yearning in many senses.
And I think it was such a rich experience working with the collection and the collection department. And I think the biennial benefited a lot from this additional layer, not only because it further embedded it within its context, but also it opened up yearning into a trans-historical perspective. It was a process of research, a process of engaging with works from a formal perspective, from a thematic perspective, but also talking to the experts and trying to understand some of the pivotal moments in the way art history has developed since, let's say, the early 20th century when Taiwan was still under Japanese colonial rule, and how many of the artists were actually receiving what is perceived as European modernism through the conduit of the colonial presence by going to Japan and studying French Impressionism with Japanese teachers, and then coming back to Taiwan and finding their own way of. So it was a very interesting process of negotiation and appropriation, but then this coming of age of artists, in the post-Second World War period, specifically in the 50s and 60s, artists who were trying to perhaps look into all the different styles and movements and traditions that they had inherited, that's similar to what artists do today, artists have always done, and similar to how we have certain questions and desires and longings today. These have always existed and have always been subject matter for artists from Taiwan, from different places, under different circumstances. I think in our practice, artists and working with artists has always been a very, very central component. Artists are perhaps the only people in society, perhaps, who can truly, truly complicate things for us in a positive way. There are complications that become a waste of time and energy, but there are complications that make you stop and not take for granted the things that you thought you knew or you had, and rethink everything from the beginning. And I think artists that are really, really good at what they do are able to make you pause and rethink everything from scratch. So the relationship that we developed with many of the artists was very much based on this open conversation centered around the question of, what do you yearn for? It was a very organic process, it was a very spontaneous process, months of discussions, of reading, of joint research, until the form and the idea for each of these artists started crystallizing.
The architecture of TFAM is in fact one of the very important elements in this exhibition and in this design. When you look at this building, it comes from a period of democratization, of opening up. The building had the spirit from that time. And bringing that to the forefront was for us very, very important. So what you do not see in the exhibition is an addition of walls. It's quite the opposite. We took down some walls. We actually wanted the architecture to be visible, to be part as a main actor in this Biennale. So you see curtains instead of walls. It is a very light architecture. It's almost floating. It's kind of hiding something, but you can still see through. You can see a little bit. You can't see the whole thing. Sometimes you can get there, sometimes you can't get there. But the whole building and the way you navigate through the exhibition is actually, for all of our projects, but in particular also the Taipei Biennale, a very, very important factor.
Time, place.
艺术是非常具有穿透性的语言，策展人经由艺术家的作品构成总体叙事，而艺术家提出的作品来自个人经验，但总能牵动观众的共鸣。这好似低吟的共鸣和交流，其实超越了属地主义和物理距离，让世界温柔地不断地连接。
For me, this feeling of yearning is a very undefined call towards something. So when I think what I'm yearning for, it is often hard for me to express that. So it is perhaps a whisper, and that's where the title also comes from, a whisper of something that you maybe don't fully hear. When you remember a dream, you often don't fully remember it, but you think you remember it. You're that close to recalling it, but you can maybe never fully describe it. And so this feeling of a whisper or a horizon, and I think Taipei in Taiwan being an island with a beautiful horizon line all around it, has this embedded. You know, when you look at the sea, you think of a far place, you start dreaming, imagining, perhaps in a nostalgic way, arriving from a place, maybe going somewhere else. And when you go to the exhibition, I think you feel very strongly an element of this journey, an element of a physical connection with these sentiments. There are very emotional moments in the exhibition where all these artists are sharing this sentiment of yearning for something, of a whisper that they're trying to express, or a horizon which they wish you can actually travel to. But of course you can never reach the horizon line. So the closer you go, you think you go, the horizon line keeps going further away. You can never reach the horizon, but it doesn't mean that you don't want to continue going there. And these are all the stories that the artists are telling us.
Yearning for me is the desire to make meaningful connections. Whatever the context is, I think it's important to slow down and to make meaningful connections. Do things with care, do things with attention, do things with pride, meet people with a genuine interest to engage and to exchange. And perhaps this slowing down allows us to listen better, and in the process learn something about who we are, but also perhaps learn something about the world and develop a sense of empathy and respect, even though we might realize that the person sitting in front of us or the things that we are encountering might be representative of a very different worldview. That's okay. But how do we live together, and how do these worldviews connect in a meaningful way? That's my desire. That's what I yearn for.